We saw the excitement that Frontech had and the novel application of just being able to speculate on your friends. Obviously, like we all know where Frontech is today. I think the unlock for us was just seeing how much excitement people had for the actual like financialization of the product. We thought, hey, we could actually just build a app or product fully focused on the speculation and financialization of the creators and influencers. And so we set out to do that with Kizzy.
Oh yeah, we are back. Episode 50. What the hell?
Almost a year.
Love it. Does it feel like a year? I don't know, man.
I mean, it kind of feels like we've been doing this forever.
Yeah, exactly. And yet it feels just like yesterday because we have so much fun. Episode 50 of Internet Explorers, every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're here talking about all the interesting things that have happened in the consumer crypto world. Got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about Kizzy, a really exciting social betting app emerging on Monad that we're excited to be working with. We're going to have Joey on to talk about the C Club news this week that's with Acquire Build. And excited to kind of shine some light on what that product is and maybe give some teases around how we see it going forward. And then there's just no shortage of the debates around value, around culture, around social, around art. Chains. I'm trying to convince Mert to go launch an L2 meme coin that could sort of be the next Doge. I feel like there's an opportunity there. It was in his replies today. I don't know. We'll see if that goes. Timeline feels good. Feels playful. It feels I like it. How was your weekend, Whistler, Josh? You saw bears. The kids.
So I saw bears. Yeah, my little guy thought it was a big rabbit, which he quickly realized it wasn't. The closer it got,
it was a big bear.
Northern Lights for the first time yesterday, which is sick. I closed my blinds to not distract from the conversation, but there's some nice mountains out there.
The backlit is real. All right. Is there any news that we need to share here? I feel like we should just jump in. I feel like these conversations are both super interesting. I want to make sure we have enough time. So who we bringing up first?
We got TH.
What's up, my man? How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you? Nice to talk to you all again.
I love the it's 1 a.m. in Asia energy.
Why did I agree to do this?
I actually briefly considered questioning myself, but it's always nice to talk to y'all, so it's worth it.
We're excited because I think there's a ton. I mean, my guess is a lot of folks will be hearing about Kizzy for the first time here today, and that'll probably be most people's experience moving forward. But you've been building for a while now and have a core group of people who are infatuated with this product. And of course, you're building on Monad, which is, unlocking a bunch of functionality for you and sort of the vision that you have. And also I think it's going to be a big moment in crypto as there's a bunch of these very excited L1s coming out in the next little while. So maybe let's just start. Why don't you give just the briefest intro of yourself and then tell us what Kizzy is all about?
Yeah, happy to. So my name is TH. Been working on Kizzy for the last year, but before that, I actually started a social media infrastructure company called Interlace, primarily on Solana with the same team that we have with Kizzy. So it's 4 co-founders. What we did was we worked a lot with Web3 social media sites, not necessarily Web3 specific, but just Twitter, Discord, and Telegram, extracted data from that and built APIs and infrastructure for Web3 businesses to use to build better products. This was primarily on Solana. A lot of this was 2023, and it was a pretty deep bear market. It was a B2B business, and for us, while we did have a decent amount of customers, we were kind of looking for opportunities to get more on the direct-to-consumer side. We saw the excitement that Frontech had and the novel application of just being able to speculate on your friends. Obviously, we all know where Frontech is today, but I think the unlock for us was just seeing how much excitement people had for the actual financialization of the product. And so we thought, hey, we could actually just build a app or product fully focused on the speculation and financialization of the creators and influencers. And so we set out to do that with Kizzy, put together an MVP. We got second place on the Solana Hyperdrive Hackathon, and then have been taking Kizzy from basically an MVP to a full-blown app, now launching on Monad today. And I think most likely will be kind of launching publicly quite soon, just depending on some timelines outside of our control now.
Yeah. Why don't we get into the insight on why social media betting, or I think you often describe it as the DraftKings for social media, because I think it's kind of a cool story where you had this B2B experience, ready to kind of step into consumer, and kind of like looked around your team and kind of asked the question of like, what are we like uniquely well equipped to go build, and that's kind of what got you here. So yeah, maybe talk about how you landed on this idea.
Yeah, so I think one thing is like we've seen the evolution of social media, and really it's been more defined in the last 5 years. I think with when TikTok was launched, it started off as like people just like writing it away. It's like another kind of Gen Z app, but now it kind of dominates the short form video content space. And you have apps like Twitter, Instagram, and even just any top social media platform, just like focusing. Even like YouTube has short form video content, and it's just the direction the world's moving is just being able to empower creators and influencers more, no matter like what walks of life you come from. And so like one of the things that was like resonating with us was like you had people quite literally quit their jobs across kind of a like wide range of industries just because they were good at something, they like making content, and were able to kind of leverage social media to actually be able to make a living. But this pointed to like a broader theme that we saw was like the world's more terminally online, and social media is continuing to like dominate the attention economy. Like, is there a way for us to create some sort of speculation on top of social media, which existed for sports for the last like 50 years? And so really like what we're doing with Kizzy is wanting to create an entirely new market for speculation, just like sports betting has done for sports, which is just as exciting, just as fun, and makes consuming social media content that much more exciting and fun.
So do you want to get maybe a little more specific into just what the product actually is? Because I think when you play with it, it very much is a DraftKings for social media. But why don't you go a little deeper into what you can actually bet on and what like the user experience of the product is like?
Yeah, happy to. So I would say like first, when looking at like building social media betting, there's a lot of just thought that has gone into like what that looks like from the user's perspective. What we did was take a lot of inspiration from what has product market fit today, which is sports betting. It's a massive industry, like estimated to be around $300 billion. And for us, it's an enjoyable app experience. It gets a lot of participation from users. And when you look at what you're betting on in sports, it's sports teams or athletes and the performance of their selves on their matches. And so, for example, like when you're betting on like let's say a football match, you're betting on who's going to win, who's going to score the most points, who's going to win the coin flip, etc. There's just a lot of things that you can bet from that. If you take those same principles and actually just apply it to social media, you can take an influencer creator and then look at their social media posts and what they kind of put out to their audience, and then dictate what performances and create markets off of that. And so the initial version of Kizzy is actually just being able to predict and effectively place bets on how you think someone's going to perform on their post or even their subscriber or follower account. I think the best way to look at this is like what dictates success in social media. It's who has the most fans, who gets the most attention, and those actually can be defined via metrics that these social media websites provide. And so, likes, views, followers, those all go up and down depending on, the ability for someone to capture that attention. And so for us, we see this like very like strong parallel between sports and social media influencers. And we've created a sports betting like experience for social media, like as you said, and we're just getting started, right? Like there's so much that can kind of be put on top. But for us, we've had to like design the form function, what that experience looks like for the user, and then ultimately like how the bets get settled. And there's just a lot of thinking and thought that has gone into this kind of like foundation that we're creating.
Well, in your explanation there, I was able to go in and place a fun money bet on Kizzy getting more than 4 followers, over 4 followers today. So I feel like that's something that we can easily achieve here. So if you get out there, get a couple more followers, so my bet hits, that would be great.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's fun. Like my experience with it was, it took me a couple minutes to really wrap my head around what I was doing, because it does feel like, I don't know, if you're, it's probably just like the experience of sports betting for the first time. You're trying to make sense of specific odds, what's an over under, how should I even make sense of it? But what's interesting to me is how quickly you sort of start to feel what the game is. And there's definitely not these like massive crypto UX barriers that pop up to even stop you from even getting to that point. So found it pretty intuitive after clicking around a little bit, and I've been doing all right.
That's good to hear. I think one thing that we focus a lot of energy on is just making sure the app is easy to use from just like a wide range of users' perspective. Like our entire team comes from like pretty heavy Web 2 backgrounds where, UI UX is by far the largest focus, especially from like an onboarding perspective. And so anytime a user has to leave the app, you get like a very sharp retention drop off. And so like every single piece of our onboarding flow is like curated in a way to just keep the user there and keep them engaged the whole time. And then on top of that, the app itself, like you mentioned, is new. And so we actually have built like embedded tutorials to just walk the user the first time through the app to just get some familiarity around, the different pieces and parts of the application to go ahead and place their first bet. I would say like one other thing that like I think we might get to this a little bit later, but part of the reason for us wanting to launch on Monad was the opportunity to be able to kind of test this on a wide scale on a test net where real money is not involved from like the first use, like from the first time the user plays. It's kind of just from a game perspective, and so we're able to really just experiment and test behaviors that the users may have early on.
Yeah, I think the thing that I liked so much about this from the first time we started talking is like I think the like broad platform opportunity for like meme coin launch pads and prediction markets is pretty well understood, but I've kind of long held the belief that maybe like the most interesting products built on top of these primitives are going to be like more vertical specific and social, and we just like haven't seen a lot of people running at that opportunity. We've seen endless meme coin launchpad versions and endless subtle versions of Polymarket, but not people going after this opportunity. And I think the plays that prediction markets so often fall down is the like lack of repeatability. And I think that's even true of Polymarket, right? Like, let's see what happens once the election's over. Like, is there still this like constant reason for people to come back? And I think what's so interesting about the market you guys are playing on is it actually like puts the repeatability of sports betting to shame. Like, social media is just like 24/7 like infinite reality show that never ends and has like infinite unraveling storylines. So kind of using the prediction market primitives and of like global liquidity, permissionless liquidity, and inserting it into that like expansive infinite game, I think is just really captivating.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to.
I was gonna say I'm pretty opinionated on prediction markets. I think they're able to like accomplish a lot, but from just like a game and speculation perspective, I think they're a little bit lacking from achieving any like meaningful like retail participation. And you call out some of the reasons like up there. It's just hard to get like a kind of retail user excited about betting on a prediction market when there's just so many other opportunities that are far more familiar and exciting for them.
We'd love to talk a bit about your decision to build on Monad and maybe do it from a more general sense, because I think, over the last year or so, it's been increasingly challenging, I guess, for builders to choose where to go build their thing or to launch their thing, at least. Obviously, there's a couple pretty clear winners and endless debate and infighting and tribalism around all of it. But, we get to talk to founders all the time who are, about ready to launch their thing and trying to choose where to launch it. So what was your thought process around ultimately choosing Monad? Because frankly, like my initial thought of fit for this would be Solana.
Yeah, and I do want to be like very clear that our decision to launch on Monad was extremely like contested from just a perspective of like, is this the best? We committed to build on Monad in March of this year, which was like pretty early on just in our process. I would say there's like two main decision points that led us to kind of just make this final decision here. One is we wanted a testnet to build Kizzy on, and we wanted to pick the testnet that had the widest range of users and easiest usability from just a retail user's perspective. And so Monad has managed to capture a significant amount of attention just from an infrastructure perspective. And so just look at the kind of caliber of teams that have committed to kind of being there to support. And we've seen like a number just announced in the last couple of days, but even from the last few months, you have Phantom, Backpack, OKX, Magic Eden, even some of the wallets like Coinbase may actually support Monad. We're unsure, but these are teams that have never supported a testnet before. And so they've managed to capture like significant retail attention. Like Phantom specifically is the most popular wallet app today. Like it's just a fact. And so they're going to be doing a massive campaign just for Monad. And any user that uses Phantom will be able to kind of test apps on Monad pretty easily on testnet. And so just from a community and infrastructure perspective, like we're able to capture a lot of attention from folks that may not have the opportunity to test apps today. I'll just like put this into perspective. Like, let's say we want to use like a testnet like Movement or even Bearchain. It'll probably take a user maybe 5-10 minutes to just get started. And even that's a pretty long process where 90 to 95% of users who may not have the opportunity aren't going to go through that. Whereas if you have a wallet like Phantom or Backpack that is supporting the testnet from their wallet perspective, they've never done that before, making it really easy for this large amount of users to come use the application. Like those are users that we actually want to get to try Kizzy in the first place. The second reason is a little bit more nuanced, but Monad has done an incredible job like curating an amazing community around it of really excited, enthusiastic individuals. And so from our perspective, like from day zero, when we started marketing on Twitter, we had community members just excited about being a part of our community and ecosystem. It's already hard to get customers in crypto and Web3. Like any kind of job the ecosystem can do to bring genuine people to your product and just start giving feedback or just wanting to be a part of it makes it that much easier to build a more compelling product. And so we saw a lot of this community building early on. We saw the focus, we saw the alignment of like, hey, these like we don't really have any incentives directly tied to that. And that kind of got us excited of like, okay, these are some long-term aligned builders that want to be here to kind of see the success of Kizzy. I can go a little bit more into the technical detail, but from a builder's perspective of like someone who's thinking about launching a chain, I think the most important part is just distribution and the quality of users you're able to get. I think there's no better place to launch than Monad, like just in today's ecosystem and kind of debate. And I'm willing to like stand on that, but like we're launching, I couldn't be happier launching there.
That's super helpful.
What I'm sure just like the opportunity to be, a killer defining consumer product on a new chain with a ton of attention is like a very appealing offer, right? If you go to Base, there's, a ton of other stuff. Jesse and the ecosystem team are, in over their heads with all the people kind of coming at them and trying to get their support. I think Solana is similar. So being able to tap into this new chain with, real distribution into kind of a unique audience and a bunch of people that really care, but be like one of the few really killer products on it from day zero, I think is a great way to incubate something.
Yeah, and I didn't mention that, but just like having the narrative of like if there's not a lot of projects competing for the same attention, it's just much easier to be able to own that title. And from like if you look at like the requirement from the beginning of us wanting to launch on a testnet, like I think you can start to put together really good case for why we picked Monad.
Yeah, I think that testnet point is an underrated one, and because I think the corollary is like let's go run points and we'll just go do a points thing and we'll figure it out that way. But I think the building where there's truly not incentives that are sort of manipulating whatever the outcomes or the experience people have, and points are an incentive that can manipulate that, I think is super smart. So actually our conversation in Singapore that went deeper into this decision around the importance of a testnet was very educational for me. And I think we'll probably see many more teams do things like that, whether it's on their own chain. I think we were just tweeting about Tamagotchi, which is a fun game coming out. They've done a very similar thing. Testnet, they have their own L2, kind of all bedded together. But that testnet is, and the types of people that are there and the types of interactions, it feels like a lot more organic and exciting. So some insight there.
I wrote a post about this quite recently on my personal Twitter, but I think we're going to see just a large amount of users or app teams just like leverage testnets to be a lot more useful just to kind of get really new products out, because crypto is great. Like you get to access just real world money rails and be able to get like global users from day one, but it's dangerous as well. Like it doesn't leave a lot of room for mistakes. I think if you scroll down a little bit,
I just paused here because I like this tweet, so I just had to let that marinate a little bit.
I think scroll down a little bit more. Yeah, this one right here. Nice. I think like Blast really did pioneer this with the Big Bang hackathon, but just to talk a little bit about the reasons, like one, ecosystem teams are just more incentivized to support, even just from a builder perspective. Like you mentioned, Jesse has so many teams on Base that are like kind of trying to grab for attention. It's a little bit hard to get noticed. But I think one thing that teams forget is like you have two hot starts as well. Like a lot of these testnets are incentivized, and even though some don't make it public, like you have the perspective of just not even activating your hot start, waiting for those ecosystem hot starts to kind of fizzle away a little bit. But then you have this excited community, and then you can kind of start inserting your hot start to effectively have that drive like more consumer demand on mainnet. But yeah, I think this is going to become more popular, especially as we just start having a lot more kind of ecosystems to be able to test new apps on.
Yes, and we will have a lot more ecosystems to be able to test new apps on, and the pace we're going here today. All right, man, I think we're going to leave it here. Where should we direct people's attention? Are they just following you on Twitter? Is there a way for them to go in and be a part of something early?
Yeah, so I think just a little bit more about the future of Kizzy, I think will be helpful. So we're launching on Monet's testnet. We want to be like one of the earliest apps to launch there, and I think we're on track to do that. In the meantime, we have like an application process on the website that lets you in the closed alpha. We're actually going to close this and start kind of opening up new channels to just get ready for the testnet. So that'll be our Discord. But I think the easiest way to just stay in the loop is just follow our Twitter and wait for us to kind of just start getting more community people involved. Right now, we're in a little bit of a testing mode where we're just like working with a very small community to just get the testnet app to be at a much higher level than if we were to just launch a random app on testnet.
Go follow Kizzy. Help me hit my bet of betting that there's going to be more than 4 followers of Kizzy today. Clairvoyant, basically. I just see the future. I just know.
What was the number when you followed it? Are we already there?
I don't know. I'd refer back to the source of truth, which is the Kizzy mobile app. I don't know. It just says that I'm doing. Look at it. It just says I just see what the outcome is going to be basically already. I can see into the future. It's a lot of fun. I think very excited about it. It feels very like new inventory coming into a marketplace type of thing, and I think it's going to be a lot. Yeah, so much interesting content and experiences sort of to come out of it. So very excited. You guys are killing it, man. Like we get to spend with your team a bunch of time with your team in Singapore, and I love the camaraderie and sort of depth of history you guys have. It's very evident in the types of conversations that happen there. So super bullish on you guys, as you know. Thank you for staying up late for us tonight, and for folks here, Kizzy Mobile on Twitter, go give it a follow so you can be early to the testnet and early to Kizzy and mobile or social betting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure talking to you all. You all have a very unique like perspective on the space, and it's just like very refreshing. I would say like last thought here is we have an endless amount of ideas for like what this could become, and we're just so excited to just be able to experiment and really put out something new in the market. Like what you see on the app today is just so much different than like what we plan to kind of just continue pushing on. And for us, that makes it building this that much more exciting. But always appreciate the support, and thank you so much for giving me a chance to share a little bit more publicly.
Amazing. Thanks, Ben.
Appreciate it.
I mean, I think that this sort of dynamic of like new infra, I think a lot of people look at the incentives, purely from a token perspective. What, like that I can get in on the ground floor ish. I mean, that's an overstatement of a century for most retailer buyers coming into these L1 deals. But I think the just being one of a few versus one amongst many, the big fish in a small pond it's how you build transformative technological products, right? You need to sort of start really small and edge out. And I think being able to break through that attention barrier that exists in other places is just going to be a consistent incentive for building on the next new thing, though not without risk, that's for sure. So yeah, it's cool. All right, we got Joey.
Let's get Joey up.
What up, Joey?
Yo, what's up?
We didn't send you the green room snacks, but
I was totally misled, but I did. I gave Kizzy a follow for you, so I expect a cut of the proceeds.
Yeah, I think I put 200 fake coins on it, so we'll see.
All right,
but
send some fake coins my way.
Was only paying out a 1.89, so
well,
they're favored to beat 4. Anyways, big news in C Club this week. You were involved in it, Joey. Shocking.
Always have to be involved in C Club news.
Yeah. So yesterday we were excited to announce the acquisition of Build, which is a platform, community, and product that Joey, Rafa, and the Backdrop team have been building for the last year-ish.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought it would be cool just to, my take is, and after seeing a bunch of the responses, there's like, there are thousands of builders who are excited about the sort of connections and community and sort of opportunity that the Build has sort of created. And people are extremely, they're excited. They're up in your DMs asking for when the next thing is. But even in talking with them, I realized most people don't have a clue about like the depth and functionality that you've sort of built into this thing. So I'm excited to maybe let them in on the secret a little bit.
And honestly, neither did we until we looked at it.
Yeah, well, exactly. That was my experience too, and it was actually for as Nicholas went into the code base, he's like, oh, yeah,
this is
cool.
This is good.
There's a lot there.
So, do you want to maybe just give us like the short TLDR and the history of build and what you're trying to achieve there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been always just interested in supporting builders at very early stages doing weird things on the internet, which is of course how we've ended up in the CPub, the universe for such a long time. And we started build with this opinion that a lot of the ways that traditional kind of accelerator incubator programs are built is there's an opportunity to do something quite different and much more technical, that looks a lot more like almost like a social media network or a platform than people expect. And so it's kind of like accelerator on the front, platform in the back, and I think that is something that people just didn't get right. So I think that feeling that you have is very familiar, which is that, oh, I actually don't have any idea how this thing works under the hood. And I would say even people in the program didn't have full visibility into how things work under the hood, which was by design. So basically what we wanted to do was we wanted to build a program that would scale. So most like accelerators, they tend to scale with the operational capacity of the team. So if you want to incubate 10 teams and give them all $100,000, you have some amount of operational capacity you need to have on your team to do that. If you want to support 100 teams, you need to increase your capacity, maybe not linearly, but it's not far from that. Otherwise, the experience of the teams gets worse. And that model obviously is amazing, right? It works. It's works for CPub, but we wanted to try to think of something that would have a totally different scaling function. And in order for that to work, you can't be directly supporting really any of the teams. So the experience of a team cannot change based on how much time you can give them, and really importantly, the experience of the team can't really change as other teams join. So in a lot of programs, their experience actually gets worse. As if you get one bad apple, right? One bad team joins Y Combinator or something, and it's like blowing up every office hours, asking stupid questions. Like everyone's experience gets worse. And so, anyways, those are the kind of pieces that you need to like take into a program. And there was like Build Space or Pioneer. There's a bunch of these kind of programmatic accelerators that have been tried over the past few years. So anyways, that was kind of all the insight that went into it. And what we built over time, I mean, it was not as automated in the beginning as it was by the end, is basically a system to go out and find builders on the internet, figure out how to get in touch with them, tell them about the program, apply, get them into the program, and then kind of create the space for them to create updates and make progress. But it's self-directed, right? So we're not telling you what to build, we're not telling you how to build, we are just kind of giving you the forcing function, that now is the right time to build, and then creating the incentives on the other end. So, and we did that by bringing infrastructure partners in that have grants and credits and and they're the ones they're the experts, right? If you're going to go build on Monad, like don't talk to us about building on Monad, like talk to the Monad team. They're the ones who know that thing in and out, and they have the incentives to support you. So we bring all the builders in, we bring all the infrastructure companies in, and the product just like stirs the soup. And then at the end of the program, everyone is launching and creating demos and these kinds of things, and some people are getting prizes and grants and attention and all that kind of stuff. So by the end, we were able to run the program with thousands of people in it, with about 10 hours a week of our time, so like one person doing 10 hours a week, which I think for most people is kind of mind blowing.
I think comparing that to the 60 hours a week it takes Jess and I with a 10 team cohort, it's definitely mind blowing. Can you talk a bit more about the like value that builders got going through this program? Because I guess it was surprising to me almost how much people loved it and how much value they got from it, and just like the outpouring of love that this product has seen. Is it around the accountability aspect of it? Is it the social dynamics? Is it the grants? Like what's the thing that people got so pumped about?
Yes. I mean, I think it's a mixture of those things. It's one of those things that when you say it out loud, it feels just really obvious, but I'll say it anyways, which is just that, a lot of people are great builders. They have ideas for things they want to build. Those ideas are keeping them up at night. They're thinking about them in the shower. And, first of all, just the decision to ship it live to real people into their hands today, or this month, is a decision that takes people a long time to make, and they are going to be happy when they make it. It's like a regression to the mean. It's like you don't have to do anything. As soon as they do that, they will be happy. And in addition, when you decide to actually build something, it's super lonely. Ask any builder, it's ridiculously lonely, and nothing, your Twitter community or something is not changing that for you. So, taking those two things together, what we do is we say, okay, here's a program, and to complete this program, you need to ship your product and launch it. And we define launch, we get specific on a couple of things. Launch for us means you have a product, it's live in production, there's a website with a URL, I can click to it, I can use the product, I can, log in, create an account, do all this stuff, right? So it's not a marketing landing page. It's not a clever trapdoor where you're saying coming soon. Those things are useful tactics, but it's not for us what we mean by launch. And so we're very pushy on that. That's a requirement for completing the program. And so you're getting everyone to do that, and they're doing it together with everyone else. And we even coordinate that the day in which you're going to launch and get that product live into people's hands is the same day for everyone, and that feels amazing. You're all of a sudden everyone is kind of doing it. So it is just community is about constraining behavior, and I think around a shared mission, and that's how I see it. And I think the shared mission in this case is you want to get that crazy idea of yours into the world, and the shared behavior is you're doing it within this prescribed format. And I think people just really, really underestimate how much value is delivered by that versus the advice or things like that. So even if you ask someone who goes through, I mean, you guys know this, but maybe if someone listening doesn't, if you ask people what did you get value out of from Y Combinator? It's really nice to be able to talk to Sam Altman when he was there or whatever, and get his advice. But actually a lot of the real value comes from the forcing function of doing that thing in community. And so again, if you peel those things apart, one of those things scales like crazy, and one of them requires Sam Altman. I think that's kind of the what we just build around.
The other thing I saw coming up was just the incentive, both sort of the social incentive and maybe even some grants to go learn a new thing popped up quite a bit, right? So many folks would discover entire new tech stacks, new opportunities. I mean, I know you brought in a bunch of interesting AI opportunities into some of the more recent batches. And, I think there's a lot of people out there who are probably working their day jobs and just, maybe not as infatuated with whatever their day-to-day is, but are infatuated with the next new thing. And I think it's just crazy how simple, and I think we said this in our post yesterday, just how simple a little bit of structure can be, and a little bit of social proof or capital that gets put on the line, and a date in the future that that you've sort of committed to. And I think in talking to a number of developers, that's what they used it for. It was an opportunity to go learn new tech stack, new things, and also not just forget about it, right? To actually push something forward to completion. So my sense is that there's just more and more of us are in this world, right? That we're using that a core part of our success moving forward is experimentation with new things. And the degree with which we're able to go do that, I think will have a pretty big impact on the success or the value that we can bring to projects, et cetera. And so when you start getting under the hood here, you're seeing a lot of a wide breadth of types of developers that are coming in here. And yeah, I think my surprise and pleasure was seeing how well such a very simple accountability and social structure can scale, because I think we come at it from the very opposite direction, where we very, very purposefully keep our batches very small, and we use that as a great forcing function for us to only work with what we perceive the best opportunities are. But in many cases, those best opportunities are in all cases, they're put through the lens of Josh and I. And there is a much wider world out there. And yeah, excited for Build here. I think to talk a little bit about what we're going with it. I think there's clearly a ton of energy and around this sort of frontier positioning of Build, right? That there's constant influx of new technology, and this is a great place to go be a part of that. And I think that's very exciting to us. And we think about supporting, backing weird things on the internet, to make the internet a little bit more interesting. I think the idea of being able to go and have a more scalable place to engage and support builders without the constraints and limitations of needing to look at it as an investment or needing to look at it as, you know, one of 10 teams that might come into our accelerator, is really exciting to me. And I think we also see, you know, a big opportunity for Build to start to play more directly with these emerging infrastructure ecosystems. You know, I think we'll be talking a little bit later about Unichain and the 17 other L2s that have launched today, but there is no world where competition for builder attention goes down in the next little while. And so, you know, if we zoom out, one of our, you know, like the things that we're most excited about is actually taking the non-scalable pieces that we currently do and looking to build product that allows us to scale those. And we see Build as just being an incredible head start to do that in our, you know, we sort of think there's builders, there's explorers, and there's investors, and it's those three groups and flywheels that come together to make up the C Club ecosystem. Well, we have two really exciting things, one with Build and serving builders, and we're excited to extend the product and make investments in the product there, and then something special coming out for our explorers as well. And I'm excited to sort of bring these things together into a world that I think will finally allow people who are kind of paying attention to C Club to go, I get it. I just needed a little bit more structure to understand how this stuff comes together. And in fact, I got a bunch of DMs like that. Like, oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. And I said, do you? Because I'm not sure if I know exactly what I'm doing, but thank you.
Yeah. I mean, for us, I mean, the reason that I'm just pumped about this kind of whole acquisition is that there are some things that work super well about Build. I mean, I think that like the reason I'm excited, always fun like to talk about them, is that they are non-intuitive. And once you kind of lock into them, you're like, oh shit, like this is really, and for us, it was always that every month, at the end of every month, where again, we're a small team of a few people supporting thousands of builders, and people are like writing us the nicest messages I like have ever, and I, you know, saved all of those, and to anyone who has written one of those, like it truly made, you know, all worthwhile of just like transforming people's lives. Like, oh my God, I did this program. I like finally built that thing. I got a grant. Now I'm like deciding to quit my job. Like I'm going all in on this thing, you know? So it was just incredible. We're like, how are we doing this with the amount of like what we feel like we're putting into this? Like it feels crazy in comparison to what we're getting out. But you know, but at the same time, and you know, we're able to make good money off of Build and all those kinds of things. But we look at it and there's like other pieces that, you know, around how do you actually support people, like the best builders, to go really take that swing afterwards, and how do you make sure that, you know, people can get attention, you know, for if they're building something that's really worthwhile. And like those pieces, you know, weren't things that we could solve on our own as well. So when we looked at it, we're like, okay, what are we going to do ourselves to go out and kind of like take the next step, really make Build like 10 or 100x better. And I think, you know, what we got to the point is just like, we're probably not the best people to do that. Like we can build those things ourselves, but there are just a lot like ways to shortcut that path. And I think that's always the case where, you know, finding someone to partner with is like an amazing opportunity. So I'm just pumped that we were able to do that.
Yeah, I'm equally excited. I think I've seen the alignment from day one, and obviously we've got to be on the inside as you guys were building it out, and it was nothing but, you know, great progress and momentum despite that sort of was more than I was expecting. And yeah, I think there's just so many fun things that we can go do with this, and I'm really excited to start to build alongside the Build community and sort of bring the C Club community there as well. But you guys are, you know, this is not the end of Backdrop by any means. I think what you sort of realized, okay, maybe we're not the right people for this. It's a good business, but it's not going to get us to what the type of outcomes that we're looking for here specifically. And so you sort of identified another, which I think is a very exciting category that I'm not seeing like, I just know it's going to be huge. So maybe you can tell a little bit about the new project you're working on called Grid.
Yeah, it's not intuitive how we got from, and speaking of non-intuitive things, how we got from Build to what we're doing now. But I can tell you, it's like we're in Build, we're looking at all these products getting built literally like over the weekend. Honestly, I mean, I don't have any idea what CGov's doing with Build, so I'm not giving it away anything here. But we considered like shortening it, like taking it from a month to like a week, because it's like people are twiddling their thumbs giving them a month. It's crazy how fast you can build, like especially apps and some kind of products these days. And on the other hand, we're looking at with like a bunch of people, my wife included, as like a non-technical founder, and they're hiring agencies and freelancers to build their products. It's taking like 12 months, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, this is totally nuts. Like this, something is just not checking here. And so I think, you know, counterintuitively, like even despite having built, you know, Build, we really believe that a lot of people are going to build products without hiring an engineer into their team, because nothing that you can do can change the fact that it is very, very hard to hire someone amazing. and that there's a whole huge world of, people using agencies and freelancers and stuff like that to get a product built. So, and on top of that, we've been, getting a pretty good front row seat to what's happening with AI in build and just messing. People don't know that, like, there's actually a ton of AI. You guys know now because you're in the code base, but like under the hood, there's a lot of AI in build. And so we think that especially the process of how you translate like what someone is looking to build into a very tight scope, and then getting proposals and actually estimating costs and things like that is a problem that you can really kind of crack with AI. And we've seen that. We're a couple months in now. So essentially, we're just working to help people get products built without spending so much money and time, and we're pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, I love it. I think, there's this, society-wide debate about the value of AI and is it going to take our jobs, or how, who's going to capture the most value? Is it more of an extending, innovation, or is it going to be disruptive? Yada, yada. And I think there's this sort of new category emerging, which is like things that were really hard to do because it required very specific skills that were in demand and hard to hire for, which is, development, product development. We've seen it in scalability. I think there's a team doing something similar in sort of like I think one of the big exchanges up, and they sort of gone off and are able to scale their talent significantly and sort of build the repeatable processes once they've done it once to kind of, and so you start to see like, yeah, okay, maybe it's an extending innovation right now as Facebook is going to run away with it and NVIDIA, great. But most people are focused on, okay, how is AI going to come in and affect Accenture or call centers, et cetera, which is obviously a big topic of discussion. But I think that the more interesting thing is like, what is the net new thing that will be built? If you start here from day one with AI as the assumption, not the, not sort of an afterthought or an add-on, you get a whole different looking type of organization. And so that's what I'm excited about to see here. Not only, I think it's pretty clear to me, just given what you've shared, like the value and the opportunity there, but I think that for me personally, I'm most interested in what does an AI native company look like here? And I think that to me is the learning I'm most interested in.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I honestly, my mind is blown. Like, maybe not every single day, but probably a couple of times a week right now, which is always a good sign. And I think it's the simplest way I could put it is like, if you are about to build a product and you're about to hire an agency to do it, and you hire me, Joey, to manage this process for you, I got you. I can make sure you're not going to spend too much money because I've built products for 12 years or something. Like, and what is actually surprising is that I think my role in that process is actually incredibly automatable, which is that's the thing that's mind blowing. It's just how good it makes me feel kind of stupid, but so that's kind of the insight that we're taking.
Well, welcome to my life, man. Feeling
yeah.
stupid every single day. All right, Joey, let's leave it here, man. We apparently have other topics that we're going to try to get to. Where can people check out and follow along for the new adventure you're on?
Yeah, you can see me there at Joey_DeBruin, and yeah, we're still cooking it at Backdrop as well. So either one.
Awesome. Give them a follow with Backdrop on Twitter. And
yeah,
pleasure doing business with you, Joey.
As well. Of course, let's do it again.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, catch you later.
Man, just feel like you're just gonna start taking the over on any Twitter account we're gonna show during the show. And
yeah, it's how I'm gonna make tens of fake coins. Hence, it is funny. Like, I mean, the whole social media betting thing is funny because, and you see it in Fantasy Top, right? Because it is so, like, I mean, there's a ton of variables. I think maybe it feels manipulatable. I think at scale, it isn't, or at least that's part of the game, which is,
I think that's the key. It's actually part of the game. And I think it's important you do it on accounts that are large enough that, like, some single person.
Yeah, the Kizzy account's small. Like, that's exactly more fun.
But yeah, I think it's like, imagine betting on sports but being able to like run on the field and like do stuff. Sounds fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a Backdrop or sort of a build perspective, I just say, like, if there's folks here who are joining us, maybe they're meeting us for the first time after the announcement yesterday, have been absolutely in love with the feedback that we've gotten around the build program. Some really great insights on future product directions, features, dynamics, what people liked out of it. So if you have feedback for us around or ideas for how we can go make build even better, my DMs are open. That tall guy on Twitter. All right. Ooh, Maddie's
get into it.
Let's go.
I feel like all the Z Prime posts I bring up here because I think they're always just like tapping into something interesting. Yeah, this one specifically is about Maddie outlines a critique of current meme coin narratives. And really tries to just like explore what a more productive and positive sum future for them could look like. So the core of his critique is kind of around how they're just like grounded in the idea that, you know, people shouldn't have to do any work or like create any real value to make it, and how this like is kind of incentivizing, you know, investors, founders, and people to not even try and just kind of like launch obviously valueless tokens, as he calls it. So, you know, he also recognizes how powerful of a tool the tokenization of culture is, and, you know, wonders how they can transition away from their current anti-capitalist narratives into positive some CultureFi games, as he defines them. Like just harnesses them towards more productive memes. So he doesn't really get too specific into what that could look like. Kind of says some like pretty high level stuff, but it's I think a thing that we spend a ton of time thinking about too, and, you know, both with our teams, but also in the context of Seed Club. Like we have, you know, visions for a tokenized network where, you know, a token plays a really important role in, you know, in capturing the belief and putting and you know, progressing us towards this mission we're on, and figuring out the right balance between, you know, utility and you know, memes and kind of all these properties that you can kind of bake into them is a tricky thing. So
yeah, it feels like, I mean, I think to be fair, I would extend this critique far beyond meme coins. Frankly, I'd say it's like maybe the critique of crypto generally, right? And I think Vipu from tweeted something today, which is like L2s are meme coins for institutional investors or something like that. You know, that are restricted investors. Those that can't buy meme coins are buying the next L2 or L1 or whatever. And I think there's like a lot of truth in that. And so I think I would say that's maybe, yeah, you see teams having to shift to make decisions on their token models based on investor demand, not based on what's best for their product. And it's because it's really hard to know what's best for your product. And in fact, likely the thing that's best for your product is probably not copying exactly what's happened before, but some new thing. And that's like very, very hard. And so it's very understandable why somebody would want to launch a meme coin, or somebody would want to launch an LT. Like there's clear markets for those right now. But I think, you know, in anything, the opportunity, I think, is taking that insight and lesson and actually making it a lot more approachable than today. And I think that's where I sort of see, you know, the meme coin thesis sort of falling off. And I think, you know, the right way to look at meme coins is they're probably going to go and be an absolute beast for a while, and then they're going to crash like crazy. And the crash will come from the fact that this is purely driven by liquidity and by demand, and it doesn't have some sort of underlying mechanism that gives you trust long term, right? And so when people compare Bitcoin, I'll often say Bitcoin is a consumer product. It was a meme coin, but to say that it was just a meme coin is missing the fact that there is the most ingenious ever mechanism that's been created that gives people confidence in holding these tokens that, you know, crazy valuation. So I think that's, you know, when I say meme plus mechanism, you know, I think those are the two pieces that need to come together. And I think that the challenge is like, you know, you're going to have a lot of demand around these pure memes, and there's a market that's looking for them. But from an entrepreneur perspective, or I want to have an impact on the world perspective, or I want to build something that has a high chance of lasting, still very small chance of lasting for a long period of time. I'm not sure you can, you know, a very few will survive purely based on the intention alone. And I think that mechanism piece is key. Now, the challenge is, you know, try to throw utility in on top of a meme coin. That's a great way of making a meme coin interesting. And so there's sort of this like no man's land that exists. But to me, that's opportunity. I would also push back a little bit on the sort of like people are doing no work. I actually think the thing to look for in meme coins you're evaluating is, I can't remember who tweeted it, but they described it. I think it was probably Ansem tweeted, like the idea of having this sort of decentralized production studio, right? People are just making memes, they're making memes, etc. And so I think that is maybe something that's underestimated. And again, you see this in L2s like that, or in L1s as well, like the ETH fanboys, the Solana manlets. Like these are, you know, identity type things that are emerging here, and you know, people will just naturally do work. They're making it a part of their identity. They're wearing the clothes out. They're, you know, they've got it as their PFP, yada yada.
Yeah, I think the big question is like, how does it turn from these flash in the pan games to something that, you know, can actually like provide meaning and value to someone over like a 10-year time frame, right? And
I agree. Yeah,
I kind of tend to believe that the meme coin narratives today are actually ultimately very needed and productive. Like there are still just so many quality founders with, you know, very backable aspirations that are getting passed over because of these like stupid new chain games that VCs can continue playing. So I think like the faster we can get to a world where there isn't a fucking bid in sight for new chains, like it is a world we need to get to. And I think meme coins and how fun of a game retail can go play there is actually pretty productive towards that end. And obviously after that, the spectrum needs to come back, and then we need to find the balance of, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are I mean, so many things to get into there. I think people are being driven by the current market incentives, you know, and I think what that's leading to is a lot of people launching tokens that are good for institutional venture buyers, for the exchanges, etc., and not good for retail or for the people. And so meme coins are pushing this narrative forward that says, hey, it's actually giving you something to hold up all these other token launches against. And, you know, Murad's token 2049 talk does a really great job of sort of showing the down and to the right. I mean, selective data, but you know, I think it does, that narrative is broadly correct, right? Where you're saying if you're coming out with a high FDV, that the only reason you're doing that is because team, early investors, exchange get to profit from it. And meme coins are basically a big fuck you to that entire thing. Now, there's cabals and there's sort of stuff. So it's not like some sort of like, you know, savior egalitarian thing by any means, but I think it's moving the Overton window. And what are we seeing? We're seeing really exciting new types. The smartest conversations we're in are people trying to push token models or mechanisms forward in an interesting way. I think we shared a team that we're excited to be working with earlier called Kamagachi. That's it's like an on-chain game that has its own L2. It's, you know, using some of the latest tech, and it's launching with a baseline markets token, which is a very unique mechanism that, and all that stuff is packaged together and being able to say this is a complete world out there. And so I think we're going to see more and more of that because we're tired of all the other shit. And I think it is, you know, it's meme-like, right? It's attention, like it's trying to capture that attention. It's trying to distribute that value of that attention more broadly. And I think actually that's the thing. Like meme coins can help you get rich. They're really fun and interesting. And, you know, being in the trenches is an experience. And I think you see pieces of that in these new models, and it's just going to become like, can people actually make some money off of them? And they're going to start to take off.
Yeah, I like this tweet from Vance where he said, "Think whatever you want of meme coins, but they're going to force everyone to step up their game, which is a net positive, in my opinion. You're either building truly amazing things on chain or you're not. If your project cannot compete with a picture of a dog or a cat, that's on you, fam." And also, I think like the more I was kind of just, you know, thinking about this, I think the more, I guess, the way that I kind of see the current consumer crypto stack kind of came into vision, and the way I would kind of describe the opportunity right now for consumer builders is, you know, you need a branded killer front end product. I think the power of having an open protocol that anyone can build on top of and extend the project's capabilities, like we're seeing with Zora right now, is incredibly powerful. I think the value of having a mimetic token that captures the social and cultural value of the mission is incredibly powerful. And then I think really the thing that we need to figure out is how you actually have a mechanism that I think creates a like growing floor value for the token, but doesn't like, you know, cap it or stunt its mimetic potential or ability to like capture belief and social value as the product gets increasingly successful. So I think somewhere in there, there's a kind of cool holistic like consumer world that people can go build.
I love that I could probably choose the two that David Phelps believes in versus
The
doesn't
last
believe
two.
in. No, I think it's probably, I think the extends the project's capabilities and a mimetic token. I think the bottom, first and bottom are it, which I think is interesting, right?
Yeah. No, I think we just like, we use Twitter to just test ideas. Like I'm going to change my mind next week on this. And it was just a thing that in the moment was like, this kind of seemed, I feel like for some reason right now I have clarity on.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're thinking about this every day, right? Yeah. All right. What?
I mean,
we kind of talked about this. I think we probably.
We kind of talked.
Yeah.
I think really like the point. So yeah, Arthur Hayes wrote a good post this week, just kind of breaking down the sex games that you have to go play to get listings there, and you know how good call, and how kind of like poorly the tokens that are launching on sexes are performing, and kind of just like, you know, ultimately sharing the way like how he advises project to, you know, go DEX first, give your community a lot of time to, you know, acquire and participate in the upside before launching. So I think, you know, we've talked about this a lot. I think the way that I net out on this right now is if you're following or a part of a project that launches day zero on a DEX, like you can absolutely ignore them, because if you're long-term minded, that is not the thing you're going to go do. That just creates value for investors. It creates value for the exchange. It creates value for founders, but it's like the absolute wrong thing to do for your community. So
the reason Ethereum and the reason Solana and the reason Bitcoin have cult-like followers and believers is because they've made people a ton of money. A ton of money. And so if you just through that lens alone, if you look at the games that are being played on the sexes, they do not make people a ton of money. And especially as the airdrop meta has kind of played out quite a bit, and a lot of these some of the ZK things that have launched recently have just been, you know, huge disappointments. Now, is that an issue? Yeah, you know, a skill issue from the team? Is that expectations are all? I don't know, right? Like there's a lot going on there, but I think it comes down to and I was thinking about this a lot. Like, is your token being designed to be sold to VCs and to institutional investors, or are you trying to build a token that people want to actually own? I'm interested in the latter. And I think it's very clear that if you're purely playing like the FTV game, launching on a token, like that is only making your earliest backers and team money. It's made people a ton of money. Get your bag, cool, I guess it. But like, there's just not going to be the type of connectivity in that community and fervor that's going to allow them to compete in this world where it's not purely attention, it's belief that actually needs to be created here. And
well, it's the thing, right? It's like price discovery is going to happen, and you can either get to it in a way that enriches your early believers and community, or you can do it in a way that only enriches your investors and the exchanges. And I think the path that a project chooses tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, but there's like hundreds of millions of dollars based on that decision right there for early teams, and it's.
I mean, I get the incentives, but from the community member retail perspective,
100%. I mean, I think you have to be able to trade off. If you want to build something for the long term, you are trading off short-term profit for that long-term opportunity. And so I would just ask, do you believe in crypto or not?
Right. All right. Should we do a quick do you want a quick riff on Unichain? And
I mean, it was the most obvious move. I just kind of shocked I didn't do it earlier. I think you had a great point in our conversation yesterday that I think I'm going to adopt as my point, which is like, this would have been a very different thing if launched 6 months, 8 months, a year ago versus today. Not saying that's, I don't know what the impact of Unichain is. And I'm not sure I have gone deep enough into understanding all like the strategy behind this beyond, I think, one piece that stands out to me, which is like giving the Uni token a reason to exist beyond governance, right? So like the nodes, if you're reoperating a node on Unichain, you'll be staking Uni token. And so this sort of adding of utility. But I think it's probably one I need to go deeper on, because I think there's a bunch of really interesting trade-offs. You had mentioned one around competition that I think is a important one.
Yeah, I actually did. I asked a couple of my much smarter friends, and apparently the like technical innovations and like interoperability and like time to finality that they're building on here, it is actually pretty massive and novel. But I think share the same perspective. It's like, why the hell didn't you do this a year ago? You let base capture all this attention and network effects. You let Velodrome, which is like the emergent base supported DEX, kind of eat your lunch on L2s. And obviously Unichain's a great, or Uniswap's a great brand with still a ton of attention, liquidity, and usage. So by no means are they like not in a strong position, but the job would have been a lot easier if they did that a year ago.
Have you swapped on Aerodrome?
I have. Yeah.
I would say it's like, I mean, it's definitely got the momentum right now for sure.
Yeah, I think actually, so, this is just like a very clear example of kind of like the consumer crypto opportunity that I've been talking a lot about, but I actually hadn't really thought deeply about the like competitive dynamics that start to emerge when you kind of go from this like, oh, we're the DEX on all chains, like we're launching our own chain and are now competitive with all of these people we used to be in this kind of friendly relationship with. And I think
so that's maybe why they didn't do it right away.
It could have been,
right?
But then, but then they're doing it now from a position.
Yeah, but I think there's clearly a cultural shift in. So if you launched an L2 a while ago, there was sort of like this feeling that you were trying to go be like a general purpose L2. Right, like this is the Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, Blast, all going after that. I think right now there is an app chain conversation going on, and that does feel meaningfully different than trying to be a general purpose blockchain. I'm not sure it changes any of the specific dynamics here.
And the way they talk about it is as a general purpose blockchain too. But
yeah, that was the funniest part of the entire announcement.
Speed. I mean, it's gonna be, I think it's always funny seeing a new chain launch on the super chain. Everyone's like high-fiving each other and hugging each other, but it's like you guys are
you go down the list and they're all people who built it. Well, but they don't think that, right? Like I think that's the interesting thing. Like there's a deep belief in the super chain thesis from people launching there, and I think that's important to know, because I think a lot of people look at that and are like, that's insane. There's no way this is the super chain.
You think Base would be happy to allow Unichain to have all DeFi swap volume?
No, definitely not.
So then it's like, then now Base is very incentivized to do whatever they can to support like Velodrome, the like native base, the base DEX, and I don't know. I think it's interesting. Just kind of like a thing I hadn't spent a lot of time.
I mean, I think if Uniswap launched first and then Base launched afterward, or Unichain and then Base launched afterwards, you'd see it as probably like a good strategic positioning. And so, I agree. I think, this is the whole thing, right? This idea, there's a kumbaya-ness that I think exists in ETH land that a lot of folks are like, yo, what are you talking about? This is, PvP competition. And I think there's truth in both, frankly, right? I think, I do think that the longevity of pure speculation and PvP-ness generally is limited. But ultimately, these are competitive markets, and there will be winners. Like and yeah, I mean, if I'm going to put my money on which is going to win in the optimism world, it's very clearly going to be base. But I don't know. I think there's so much fun exploration as these things emerge. I just go back and
we're still in this early stage where 5% of the world has crypto. Like sub 1% is actually using. The bigger opportunity is still outside of crypto. So looking inward and competing inward is.
Well, I think that's a great way of framing my concern with the whole maxi life.
Right.
Cool. All right, we're well over time, man. That was a great conversation. We should get some of the Z Prime guys on. I mean, we bring them on here all the time. So I think there's I spent the last week kind of being in conversation with a bunch of people around this L2, around sort of the formalization of value and structure and tokens and meme coins. And what I can say is people are nobody really knows, and there's a lot of figuring out to be done out there. And so hopefully
it was a fun week of just like, we go through these periods of like, okay, we know what we're building and we're focused. And then these periods of like, everything is now possible again. And we want to talk to everyone with opinions, and they all have different opinions. And it doesn't help our sense.
It's triangulation. It's a thing. All right. Want to flag, we've been having a lot of fun with the Telegram group. It's called C Club Curated. It's fun because it's small and there's some awesome people in there. So we just share links that we find throughout the week. If you want to keep up to date on consumer crypto, that's probably the best place to go. And of course, Josh's newsletter comes out Friday afternoon, quickly becoming a fan favorite. You know, if you don't pay any attention to consumer crypto other than reading that newsletter, you're going to be in the loop, at least with what we're interested in. So make sure you give that a follow. I feel like there's just like a million interesting things happening in our world right now. So that's the place. Go follow that. We'll tell you all about them. You got anything else?
Nope. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
With us. Back here Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And I don't know what we'll talk about. It'll be something.
Happy Canadian Thanksgiving. There we go.
There we go. Happy Thanksgiving. All right, y'all. We'll see you on the internet.
Peace.
Internet.